Torment. No human face ever showed deeper anguish than hers. The young woman whose betrothed dies suddenly, the mother who mourns her lost child, the miser who finds his treasure has been stolen, the poet who accidentally burns the only manuscript of his finest work. None of these could look so despairing, so inconsolable. All the blood fled from her face, leaving it whiter than marble. Her arms hung loose as she leant against a pillar for support. And me? I staggered toward the door of the church, my face like death, bathed in sweat. I felt as though I were being strangled. I seemed to carry the whole weight of the sanctuary dome above me. As I was about to cross the threshold, a hand suddenly caught mine, a woman's hand. Till then I had never touched the hand of any woman. It was surprisingly cold, like a serpent's skin, yet its mark was burned onto my wrist like a brand. Unhappy man, unhappy man, what have you done? Then she disappeared into the crowd. The elderly bishop passed by, looked hard at me with disapproval. My face was wild. I blushed and turned pale in turns. Dazzling lights flashed before my eyes. A friend took pity on me and led me out. I could not have found my way back to the seminary without his help. At a street corner, while my friend looked away, a colourfully dressed page approached me and slipped into my hand a little pocket-book with gold embroidery, made a sign telling me to conceal it. I hid it in my sleeve and kept it there until I was alone in my cell. When I opened the clasp, I found only 2 leaves of paper. Clarimonde, at the Concini Palace. I had never heard of Clarimonde, though she was celebrated at the time. A more worldly man would have known the name at once. Nor did I know where the Concini Palace was. I conjured 1,000 wild guesses, imagined tales, each more extravagant than the last. I didn't care if she were a great lady or a courtesan, if only I could see her once more. My love, only an hour old, had taken deep and undying root. The woman had completely taken possession of me. One look from her was enough to change my very nature. She had breathed her will into my life, and now I lived in her and for her. I kissed my hand where she had touched me. I repeated her name over and over again for hours. When I closed my eyes, I saw her as plainly as if she were actually there with me. I repeated her words, "Unhappy man, what have you done?" I finally understood the full horror of my situation, the awful restraints on my life from now on. To be a priest, to be chaste, never to love, to turn away from all beauty, as it were to put out my own eyes, to crouch and hide forever in the chilly shadows of church or cloister, to visit none but the dying, to watch by unknown corpses, and always to wear the dark soutane, as if in mourning for myself. I felt my young life, long restrained, rise within me like a subterranean lake, expanding and overflowing. My blood leaped fiercely through my veins, like the aloe, which blooms but once in 100 years and then bursts into blossom with a clap of thunder. What could I do to see Clarimonde again? I had no excuse to offer for wanting to leave the seminary. I knew no one in the city. I would stay there only until my assignment, when I must leave for my curacy, so my time was short. I tried the bars of the window, but it was at a fearful height from the ground. I had no ladder. It was useless to think of escaping this way. And I could descend only by night. How would I find my way through the tangled labyrinth of streets? All these difficulties were gigantic to me, a poor seminarist who has fallen in love for the first time only the day before, without experience, without money, without the proper clothes. I cried out, if I were not a priest! I could see her every day. I could be her lover, perhaps even her husband. Instead of this dismal cassock, I could have garments of silk and velvet, golden chains, a sword, fair plumes like other handsome young cavaliers. My hair would flow down upon my neck in waving curls. I would have a fine waxed moustache. I would be a gallant. But 1 hour passed before an altar, a few hastily spoken words, had forever cut me off from the number of the living. I had myself sealed down the stone of my own tomb, and with my own hand I had bolted the gate of my prison. I went to the window. The sky was beautifully blue. The trees wore their spring robes. Nature seemed to be mocking me, making a parade of ironical joy. The square was filled with people coming and going. Young couples, beaux and beauties, sauntered in the groves and gardens. Laughing youths passed by with cheery verses of drinking songs. It was all vivacity, life, animation, gaiety, a bitter contrast with my mourning and my solitude. On the steps of the gate sat a young mother playing with her child. The father, standing at a little distance, smiled gently upon them with folded arms. He seemed to be hugging his joy to his heart. I could not endure it. I closed the window with violence and flung myself on my bed, my heart filled with frightful hate and jealousy, and chewed my fingers like a tiger that has passed 10 days without food. I do not know how long I remained like this. At last I suddenly saw the Abbé Sérapion, who was standing in the centre of the room, watching me attentively. Filled with shame, I let my head fall and covered my face with my hands. "Romuald, my friend, something very extraordinary is happening within you," he observed. After a few moments' silence, he said, "Your conduct is altogether inexplicable. You, always so quiet, so pious, so gentle, you, to rage in your cell like a wild beast. Listen to me, my brother. The evil one is furious that you have consecrated yourself forever to the Lord, and is prowling around you like a ravening wolf, making a last bold effort to possess you. Do not allow yourself to be conquered, my dear Romuald. Make prayer your sword and shield, and combat the enemy like a valiant man. You will overcome him. Virtue must be tested by temptation, purified in the fire like gold. Do not fear. Do not become discouraged. Even the most careful, the most reliable souls can be tempted. Pray, fast, meditate, and the evil spirit will depart from you." The Abbé's words restored me to myself, and I became a little more calm. "I came," he continued, "to tell you that you have been given a curacy. Their priest has just died, and Monseigneur the Bishop has ordered me to have you installed there at once. Be ready. You start tomorrow." I bowed my head, and the abbé left me. I opened my missal and read some prayers, but the letters became confused and blurred in front of my eyes. The ideas entangled hopelessly in my brain, and the volume at last fell from my hands, without my being aware of it. To leave tomorrow without having been able to see her again, to add yet another barrier to the many already between us. To lose forever all hope of being able to meet her, except through a miracle. It would be impossible even to write to her. Who could I send to take such a letter? As a priest, to whom could I unburden myself? In whom could I dare to confide? I became bitterly anxious. Then suddenly the words of the Abbé Sérapion came back to me, and I thought about the devil's tricks, his artifices. I thought of Clarimonde's supernatural beauty, the incandescent light of her eyes, the burning imprint of her hand, the agony into which she had thrown me. How all my piety had vanished in a single instant. Surely this was clear proof that this was the work of the evil one. Perhaps that hand like satin was just a glove which concealed his claws. Filled with terror, I again picked up the missal which had slipped from my knees and fallen upon the floor. Once more, I gave myself up to prayer.